Karen Country Club. And it's interesting how we have international events following each other, and we'll just have a small break, and then immediately after that break we have the rally also coming through. But before we talk matters golf, before we get into that, I want us to discuss the Champions League thing, because we have the Champions League knockouts, and these knockouts and this is where now things get a little bit interesting. Just like you're asking me about the mathematics in rugby, this year the Champions League UEFA decided to give us similar mathematics, and their mathematics in this instance was the first 8 teams were qualifying automatically to the next round of matches. Now, teams ranked from position 9 all the way to position 24. Yeah. And you see, that's where it gets interesting. To position 24, get into another round robin of matches, a knockout stage. And that is where we are today and tomorrow.
Yep,
and we have some really interesting fixtures.
They're big fixtures. All 4 are big in their own way. Galatasaray versus Juventus is very, very interesting, mostly because Galatasaray have threats who have come from the Serie A. Their biggest threats are Mauro Icardi, Victor Osimhen. That's the guy. He's been beating these Italians all his time when he was playing for Napoli. Now he's playing for Galatasaray, and he's taking the game back to the Italians.
No, he's still reminding them how good a player he is.
Exactly.
I think that's the whole point for
exactly
him. Yeah.
So that's a big one to look at. I'm just running through them very, very quickly. Benfica, Real Madrid, that's also
that's need enough time. That one, forget, don't brush that one aside. Let's go to Dortmund, Atalanta.
Dortmund, Atalanta. One of the biggest things to look at is again the Atalanta right now are having a slump. They're not playing the kind of football that we've seen them playing in previous seasons. Previously, you will find Atalanta at this particular stage of the season, they will be chasing within the top 4. That's how they're playing the Champions League football. Right now in Italy, their performances have not been so good. They're away from that. So you're expecting now Dortmund, who have a very rich pedigree,
but they've also been struggling. They've also been struggling at home in the Bundesliga.
They've struggled at home, but they've had richer pedigree in Europe. So you can actually say, Murai, it's true that 2 teams who are not having their best time in domestic football, but then who have rich history in Europe and who will look to Europe perhaps to save their seasons.
But in this instance, I think the team that will be under more pressure here is more of Dortmund than Atalanta, because Atalanta, as much as we can call them a big team in Europe, they've really not achieved much as far as the Champions League is concerned. Dortmund, however, have been run up so many times, and you hold them way up there as far as Champions League conversations are happening.
Well, Atalanta, though, in recent seasons have been reaching the semi-finals of these European competitions. They will also feel that, this year we're not playing the best. We're not playing the best in Serie A. We have to go as deep as we can in Europe, even to possibly qualify for next year. But anyway, that's another big match to look at. The other one, Monaco versus PSG. On paper, it looks very straightforward, like it's PSG who should just run over and roll over this Monaco side. But then the other thing, when you look at an all French game, then the dynamics can change. When you look at a local derby, the dynamics can change in terms of who supports what, city versus city within the same republic. Those games can get to be tricky. PSG, remember, were lost to Rennes just last week, so that could also be an issue or a factor that encourages Monaco to say, we can play against these boys and beat them. We've seen how they're being beat by other teams in France.
And they know each other pretty well, I think, just like you've rightfully put it. And to be honest, when it comes to French teams facing French teams, Monaco and PSG both have a very rich history, not just domestically in terms of winning the Ligue 1, but if you look at the rivalry in general, it has been a very big rivalry over the years, and it has built itself that way for a very, very long time. If you look at some of the legends in terms of French football, some of the biggest players that have ever represented teams, you will always hear PSG here, you'll always hear Monaco there, and Olympique Lyon, to be honest, has always fallen within that particular bracket. And then there's another team that has emerged that is becoming a feeder of so many other teams, and that's in Lille, that has been a football ground, or rather a nurturing ground for so many footballers that are going out to big teams in Europe. So I agree with you 100%. This is going to be a very difficult match, not an easy one. And PSG Monaco traditionally has never been an easy match. So when you said it looks easy on paper, I don't think even on paper it's easy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very difficult match, and Monaco will want to take advantage of the first leg, knowing that they are playing at home.
Yeah, another point to note is that Paul Pogba is on the books of Monaco, though his return to Monaco has been a disaster. It hasn't worked the way everybody expected that he will be able to come back and probably earn a place in the French World Cup team. In fact, one of the pundits, former defender Frank Leboeuf, recently stated that there is a higher chance of Zinedine Zidane making the French World Cup team than Paul Pogba. That tells you just what they think about him. So he's a Monaco guy. He's not featuring in this match, obviously.
Yeah.
That would have been an interesting factor. But yeah, just something that when you mention Monaco, it's just nice to touch on that boy. He's just done so much for football. Yeah, then let's come back to yours now. The big one that you mentioned.
I don't want us to discuss mine first. Let's brush through the next ones, because to be very honest, all the matches that are being played tomorrow, to be quite honest, from where I sit, unless we have a banana slip moment, they're very straightforward matches. Newcastle versus Karabag FC, so that one I don't expect any disappointment. Newcastle will definitely carry the day. We have Bayer Leverkusen versus Olympiacos. That is the one on paper that looks a bit difficult, but Leverkusen are definitely going to cruise through this. Inter Milan versus Bodo Glimt. I'm backing Inter Milan in this, though Bodo has had its own surprises in the group matches. We saw them really turn up and make a few upsets here and there, but I don't see them upsetting Inter Milan. Atletico Madrid versus Club Brugge. Definitely Atletico Madrid to sail through. Now let's come to mine now. Benfica versus Real Madrid, because Jose Mourinho has been in the media since yesterday, really talking up this match, and as part of even his discussions, he was saying the way there's a player during the last match. You remember the very dramatic last game that they played during the group stages was played between Real Madrid and Benfica. Real Madrid just needed a draw in that match to end in the top 8, but unfortunately they lost a man towards the end of that match in extra time, and they lost the match away to Benfica. A header that was scored by the Benfica goalkeeper, a brilliant goal for that matter, that saw Jose Mourinho's team jump into the top 24, and during the picking of the draw for the knockouts, again they ended up facing each other. So this is the main one everyone is talking about. We had a meeting earlier on within our own team, and you yourself said there's a high likelihood Benfica might be able to win this because of the Mourinho factor. Mesfin agrees. I am still for Real Madrid.
Well, we are looking at this. It's a very interesting one. Of course, Jose Mourinho has already, stoked those fires by winning that game in the group stages of that with that 4-0 or 4-2 defeat. The one that actually made sure that Real Madrid didn't qualify automatically to the round of 16, but they had to play this playoff. Then they come in, as you said, and who do they face? Good old Jose Mourinho. Yeah. And Jose Mourinho has had this thing when he plays clubs that he's represented before. He's had this extra motivation, extra mojo to just go out there and do something. The other thing is that the player who's playing under Arbeloa is much younger than Jose Mourinho in terms of experience, in terms of time as a coach, time as a manager. Also, his results have not been that impressive. Yes, it's just hit 1 point below Barcelona in those league standings. But then Jose Mourinho will have a psychological edge in this one, and Jose Mourinho with mind games. So I take this and say, yeah, it's another one that I'm thinking Benfica are just going to mess things up for Real.